Meanwhile, in the pod cave.
And welcome back to another edition of the Podmen. I'm Brad.
I'm Brian.
Podman Ron, what is going on with your audio? Is working fine in the green room, and then when we go to air here, we don't got you. What happened? Nothing. Wow. Brian, can you hear him at all?
No, I can't hear anything.
Wow.
So,
well,
I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. You almost think that we have maybe some ghosts in the machine here.
It's possible.
Podman Ron is struggling to get audio. Uh-oh. Talk to us.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we got you there, Podman Ron. What happened to you?
I don't know.
All right.
Ghosts
in the machines. Well, that's very apropos for today's episode. We are, and speaking of invisible, Alex is missing tonight as well. But I know we'll definitely want to catch up with his review of Ghostbuster Afterlife maybe a little bit later. If he has anything new to say. He may not actually have anything. But we're back with a blockbuster of a movie, one of the best sequels ever made, in Podman Ron's opinion, of Ghostbusters. But before we get to Ghostbusters, let's hit the news. All right, in the news, Brian, what do we have? It's been kind of a quiet week as we had Ghostbusters, and we're looking forward to Hawkeye coming up later this week. But in between there, what do we have going on?
That's a little bit light. I think we're still in the afterglow of the Spider-Man trailer. New Spider-Man trailer.
I thought you were going to say the afterglow of the Eternals.
Oh, God. and PMR's afterglow of Ghostbusters. Well, his review is shocking.
Why is that shocking?
Well, because you've thrown another wrench into the rating system. So we'll get into that in a few minutes.
Now, Brian, we're just going for the exploitation, that we're just grabbing headlines. PMR reviews Ghostbusters Afterlife, and you won't believe what he says.
Clickbait.
Clickbait right there. You got to stick around. You got to suffer through the rest of this.
Stick around for 2 more hours here. Podman Ron said, it's good. I liked it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we got a little bit of stuff, mostly television stuff. We got a release date for season 15 of Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
News.
December 1st. Always Sunny returns on FX and next day on Hulu. So I think it's on FXX.
Was that Curb? I said Always Sunny never disappoints. Not like Curb Your Enthusiasm, which we will talk about later on in this episode.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Fair enough.
We've got this I found pretty interesting. The ABC is going to do live in front of a studio audience.
I love those.
And 2 retro shows. Have they done this before?
Yeah. Podman Ron, we keep losing your audio there. Yeah, they did Sanford and
they did All in the Family, didn't they?
Yeah, and the Jeffersons.
Jeffersons, yeah.
The Jeffersons was awesome. I forget who played George, but he did a phenomenal job playing George Jefferson. And that was a great show. That was hilarious.
Well, this time around, we're getting different strokes and the facts of life.
That's fantastic. That's a great team up. I mean, I love that they do the sequel, or the spinoffs, rather.
And Brian, go ahead and say, I know who, but go ahead and say who's playing Arnold and Willis.
Yeah, so Damon Wayans is playing Willis.
Okay.
Which is inspired casting. But unbelievable. Like, this is fantastic casting. Kevin Hart is playing Arnold.
Little Kevin
Gary
Hart.
Coleman.
That is so funny, man.
John Lithgow is going to be Mr. Drummond.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And then so far they've only given us one. Hang on.
Facts of life. They gave us Mrs. Garrett, right?
Yeah, Mrs. Garrett, but they've given us no word on who's going to play Kimberly. But Mrs. Garrett's going to be played by Ann Dowd from Handmaid's Tale, which that's okay. She was also on The Leftovers. That's okay, but I would rather see Mags Bennett.
That
as
was better. Yes.
Yeah.
What's
her name?
I can't think of her name.
Margot Martindale.
Yeah.
Margot Martindale.
That's a better casting.
So, but yeah, we're going to get 2 live in front of studio audiences. I can't believe they got Kevin Hart as Arnold from Different Strokes, but it's perfect.
They usually do this in pairs, and I cannot remember. I know Jefferson and they've done that in All in the Family, but they did another one too. They did 2 more also.
Yeah, I forgot what they did.
I cannot remember who they did on the other 2. But it wasn't as funny as the Jefferson and All in the Family. That was really, really funny.
And see, now, I really want to go back and watch them because I don't know how they slid under the radar. I had no idea.
Wow.
I thought this was the first time they'd done them.
I honestly thought we talked about it because
I'm sure we had to.
I'd like to look up and see who played George Jefferson in that because he was so funny. He played it to a T. And
was it Jamie Foxx?
Jamie Foxx. You're right.
Jamie Foxx.
And he did an outstanding job. He was perfect as George Jefferson.
Yeah, and I think Woody Harrelson was Archie Bunker.
Archie Bunker, yep. But that wasn't as funny as the George Jefferson.
No, it was good.
He played it to a T. It was so good.
All right. Well, Alex is really missing out on this podcast so far. We are talking about shows he's never heard of.
Yep.
And no intentions of ever watching.
None whatsoever.
The only other thing, unless I'm missing something, is they've cast for the Ahsoka TV show Sabine Wren.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is. Now I feel like Alex.
Rebels. Yeah, if you watch Rebels is probably the best of the Filoni animated shows, but it's set after Clone Wars, but before A New Hope, right?
Yeah.
And so you've got Kanan Jarrus, that is he never finished his Jedi training. He fled. He was a Padawan when Order 66 happened. He takes on a kid that's Force sensitive named Ezra Bridger, starts training him, but he's a part of the Rebel Alliance, like the early days of the Rebel Alliance. And you've got Ahsoka Tano shows up in it, and then you've got Sabine Wren. And Sabine Wren is a Mandalorian, and she ties into the whole Darkblade, Darksaber saga. So she actually had the Darksaber for a while. And what's really cool is they get into a lot of the canon around the Mandalorians, like why their armor was built the way it was. And I think we've talked about this before, but that's why they have a flamethrower, because you can't parry, a flamethrower like you can a laser, a bullet, right? So that's why they had flamethrowers. That's why they'd have the grappling hook tethers that they'd shoot out of their wrist, because that was they would use the flamethrower to push people back, and they'd use the tether to pull people to them, kind of mirroring Jedi powers, even though they weren't Force sensitive.
Interesting.
So they had the armor, the blasters, they had the Force, the tether, the jetpack, right? Because Jedis could leap so far. They had the jetpack for short distances.
They really loved the Jedi.
So like what's really cool is I've never actually heard anybody other than like hardcore Star Wars fans talk about this, other than in Rebels, that the Mandalorian armor and weaponry was all designed specifically to kill a Jedi. So she's the Mandalorian in the show, and at the end of Rebels, Ezra and Grand Admiral Thrawn get thrown into like the far reaches of the galaxy, and the way the show ends is that Sabine and Ahsoka are going to go find Ezra. And so we don't know if this is a prequel. We assume it's a prequel from what happened in The Mandalorian. Like, that's everything with Ahsoka and Grogu is after this, but we don't know. But it's Sabine and Ahsoka, and the assumption is they're going after Ezra. And there's already rumors about who would play Ezra. The guy, the main one is the kid from the Aladdin movie, the 2018 Aladdin with Will Smith. So
a classic.
I forget his name.
I gotta say, I like Star Wars, but when it gets, and I like that they're doing all these different branches and stuff, but after a while it gets like there's just too many names and too much to keep up with.
It's almost like Dune.
It's just too exhausting.
I'll tell you.
All these names sound the same. It's Aguka and Asaka and
Duko, Dookie, yeah.
Dookie, Doki.
Count Dookie.
Yeah, I mean, how are you supposed to keep up with all that?
Well, you watch it and you build an attachment to the characters. I will say...
Oh, that's one way to do it. I guess you could do that, Brian.
Yeah, okay, that's one way.
I will say to the listeners, if you have a choice of watching any of them...
Not to me and Brad.
No, I'm not listening. Not listening.
Is there a Tim? Did anybody get named Tim in the Star Wars galaxy?
Yeah.
You have a Tim or a Scott?
What about Kevin? Anybody got a Kevin?
Them Jedi, them boys.
Well, it's interesting. You'd think even if it wasn't spelled Kevin, it'd still be, with all the different like phonetic sounds that you can make. Sooner or later in Star Wars, you'd run across a Kevin
or John,
or a John.
Well, they started that way. Kind of. Luke was.
Luke.
Yeah. Ben.
Then it all went to shit. Then it all went crazy.
Han was out there. Han and Leia were kind of out there. And then it went all to shit.
Yep.
Oh,
anyway, if you have a chance, if you're looking for something to scratch the Star Wars itch until we get Book of Boba or Mandalorian or whatever else is coming down the pike, go watch Rebels. It's 4 seasons. It's tight. It's very good. Very good. And it's set in the same time. It's set in approximately the same timeline as The Mandalorian. It's probably about 10 years earlier than The Mandalorian. So,
all right. There you go. The Star Wars cast. Almost like Bosch. If we could have a Star Wars and Bosch cast, are those audience, do they ever mix, you think, the Bosch and the Star Wars audience?
Only in PMR's fan fiction.
I do have a Bosch update.
Oh, please.
Oh,
I mean, since we're going down this rat hole. Bosch.
The new series of Bosch is called Bosch Legacy.
Bosch Legacy, wow.
It was going to be called Bosch Nights.
And he solves mysteries and supernatural things. Does it have the same your favorite Bosch personality, or is this like the legacy of Bosch?
No, it's still him.
It's still him,
oh,
and
okay.
He's bringing along
his niece,
I don't
his
know.
8-year-old precocious niece.
No, his 21-year-old daughter. But no. But here's the thing: is he's bringing along Ernie Douglas from My Three Sons as the ME. So,
all right, I love it.
Oh, and they're bringing Honey Chandler back, Mimi Rogers.
We Rogers.
Yeah, he's
Rogers.
Just thinking of Mimi Rogers. Mimi Rogers in her prime. All right, well, anyway.
I did hear one last thing on Bosch, since we're there. I heard it's going to be set 2 years after the end of the season.
Mandalorian? Oh.
2 years after the end of last season.
It'll be 2 years since it's been out by the time it airs. But you know what, Brad? On our promotion, you can say we're the only podcast that talks about Bosch.
I wish that were true. I think there are several Bosch casts out there.
So.
Yeah, while you're out there sampling other podcasts out there, Podman Ron, maybe you ought to check out the Bosch casts.
As much as he hates Bosch,
he knows a lot about it.
I can't think of a property that had a longer lasting effect on PMR.
Of hatred.
It's like he can't get him out of his brain.
I cannot explain this show. It's just so
Bosch. I can't escape you, Bosch.
I cannot explain it. It is so bad and good at the same time. Bosch.
All right. Well, it sounds like a winner for you to start the Bosch Legacy cast.
Check it out.
I think, Brad, now at this point you need to watch it.
Ugh, I don't think I can. No.
The MST 3000 bought an episode because so much good stuff to rag on it for.
All right, well we'll have to. We can do that one day. All right. No, as far as we know, no one died. It's been a good week for celebrities. William Shatner's still around.
The guy that played the baseball player in all those different movies. He was in Field of Dreams and all. All right. He's a guy.
He's a guy.
He's been in a lot of movies.
Oh, well.
He's like a utility actor that was in a bunch of stuff. He was in The Sandlot and in Field of Dreams.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So.
I know. Yeah. Oh, well. We'll miss him.
Oh, well.
Anyway, speaking of ghosts. Ghostbuster Afterlife. We've been waiting for this movie to happen ever since the
35 years.
35 years or 10 years or whatever. When was the all-female Ghostbusters movie? When was that?
2016.
2016. Okay, so we've been waiting since 2016 for a Ghostbusters movie.
But honestly, don't you remember when they announced this? It was just such a surprise because they announced it with a teaser trailer, and no one even knew they were even making this stupid movie, much less being made with the son of the original director. So they kind of surprised us with this one.
They surprised you, didn't they? And they surprised you with a sentimental punch to the gut, it sounds like, for PMR.
It was a sentimental punch to the gut.
All right. Brian. So Ghostbusters Afterlife. Brian, give us a quick premise of this movie.
It's set in present day.
Can we say spoilers? Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. Yeah, it's set in present day. They've all drifted apart. You find out that after the events of Ghostbusters 2, like the paranormal activity started to really curtail itself. And Ray even says, well, it used to be we had 10 calls a week, and then it got down to 1 call a week. And then Egon started pulling some crazy shit, and everybody got pissed at Egon, and he went off and became a hermit. And you find out the reason Egon became a hermit is because he thinks
Gozer's coming back.
Vig Lortho's coming back.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, that's essentially it, and it picks up with Egon's death, and you meet his family that they never referenced before.
That somehow they never referenced before, and then so his kids, some of the kids, and a couple of wacky characters that they pick up along the way become essentially the new Ghostbusters. But not without the old Ghostbusters coming back. But before we get to all of that territory. Podman Ron, you said after the movie, you said this was a pitch perfect movie, right? He's so speechless. Yes. There he goes. Yes.
Yeah, I was. I said it was a pitch perfect sequel and actually a pitch perfect movie. I would actually go see this again at the theater because I liked it so much.
Even more so than the actual Pitch Perfect trilogy.
The Pitch Perfect trilogy. Well, Podman Ron, I think you may need to keep your phone still a little bit because we keep losing your audio there. So let's talk a little bit about, as Brian said, we saw Egon. We saw the silhouette of Egon get killed. And then we pick up with his family, and there's dysfunction going on and everything. But we got some precocious kids, I'm telling you. Podman Ron, tell us about Egon's grandchildren that eventually become the new Ghostbusters here.
Who's his granddaughter who looks what was she, about 15, 14, 15?
I think they said she was 13 or 12.
13. Yep. All right. She's a scientist like him. She's kind of like a genius like he was, and has a sassy attitude, and she's not scared of anything because like I said several times during the movie, I'd been running down halfway down the street if a light started moving when I was talking to it, but she seemed to like take it in stride, like, oh hey, how are you? And but she as she says numerous times in the movie, she is a scientist, so therefore stuff does not surprise or shock her. So, I actually like
she's Egon. I mean, they did all the archetypes again. She's Egon, so just her curiosity of the situation. But I wouldn't call her necessarily sassy. It was just kind of.
She had a little bit of sass in her. Yeah, she was an
oddball.
She was weird. And we should say, again, just going to spoiler territory here, that the Egon's daughter inherits this old house in the middle of nowhere. They get evicted because she's evidently a loser as well. They get evicted from their New York City apartment. They go live there. fish out of water. They got the daughter, who's a weirdo scientist. Then Finn from Stranger Things, who plays himself from Stranger Things.
We'll establish McKenna Grace, who's the granddaughter's name is Phoebe.
Yes,
and
let's call her Phoebe.
Finn Wolfhard, who's the grandson's name is Trevor.
Okay, let's call them Phoebe and Trevor, just for simplicity.
And I understand for plot purposes why this happened, but is it weird that she's so smart and a scientist, but she's in summer school?
Interesting. Is that I missed that part? So that's and this is where Paul Rudd comes into again. World's sexiest man, Paul Rudd, playing Paul Rudd again. Yeah. not much of a stretch. Not much of a stretch for Paul Rudd or Finn in this movie. They kind of played the same characters.
Yeah, and as we've said in the past, that's the true mark of a movie star.
That's true.
An actor portrays and inhabits the character he's playing. A movie star just plays themselves in different situations.
Yeah. Okay. And he is the summer school teacher, and he takes a shining toward Phoebe, the precocious Spengler. Can't think of the last name.
Spengler, yeah, because he likes science and she likes science.
Yeah,
but
and
he likes
not
creepy
her
at
mom.
all.
Not creepy at all that he likes her.
Well,
so to carry on the precociousness, she makes a friend with a podcaster of all people, a young podcaster.
Named
Podcasts. I mean, how conceited does someone have to be to name themselves after after the podcast?
After their podcast.
Yeah, that's
what a douche.
I know, even for a little kid or a
what are your thoughts on that,
some old man. That's an ego, my friend. That is an ego.
It just proves that someone's listening to our podcast and stealing our ideas.
Yeah, that's exactly what it
That's
proves.
what it is.
So anyways, they find the hellhole, and Gozier and the other people come back, and it's kind of the same. The gatekeeper, the keymaster, the marshmallow people are back. It was a little bit of a rehash, which is fine because it has been 30-some-odd years, so that's okay. But let's talk a little bit about the plot here. Brian, what did you think of it overall?
Well, I like the plot because it does tie in well with the first movie, right? So you've got, I'm sorry, I don't know why that keeps going off. You've got the building that they made in Manhattan, and they talked a lot about the building. Egon talked about the building and how odd it was the way they built it. Well, you find out the mine where they pulled the metal to build the building is this mine, and there's a temple underneath it, like a
Aztec temple, whatever, Sumerian.
Carpathian, Sumerian. That's Sumerian temple, and so that was why they it's set here, which is it's kind of cool, and that's why you find out why Egon did abandon his family and go move to this dirt farm out in nowhere.
So he was trying to. He knew that eventually the bad guys would come back, so he built this whole system of the Ghostbuster blasters to keep them at bay and traps all over the place. So he basically gave up his life, gave up his friends, all that stuff, to sit there and protect the world against what he knew was going to be the apocalypse coming back at some point.
Yeah, he was the man on the wall.
He was the man on the wall. The problem, Podman Ron, I'm hoping you can help me out here, because the problem that I had with this, one of the big problems I had with it, keeps me from giving it a 6 out of 5, is that I never felt like there was any jeopardy whatsoever, mainly because no one lived in this town they were in. There was car street scenes going everywhere. They're blowing everything up. No one ever was like, oh my God, the sign's going to fall on me. I'm about to die or anything like that. Compared to, again, this was in Oklahoma or something, I think. So it's not New York. Mm-hmm. But, you think of Ghostbusters and the craziness of the giant marshmallow man and all this stuff. Here, it was sort of like, there were probably about 10 people that lived in the town, and maybe they could have scraped their knee running.
Well, it was never more prevalent than when Paul Rudd was in Walmart.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was no one else in that Walmart.
Right.
Why were they open 24 hours? And like,
who goes to a Walmart in the middle of the night? That's what I say.
Well, that's true. He ran out. He ran through that whole store. He busted out the front door. There was only one car in the parking lot, and there was nobody else. There was no other shoppers in the store.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. I mean, I have been in a Walmart like that at 2 o'clock in the morning. So.
Oh yes, we've all been there. But you know what I mean? They never felt like there was any, like Egon was trying to protect the world here. If they would have maybe shown different scenes of New York or Paris or London, you know, things falling apart, the world going to shit. But it felt like there were no stakes whatsoever in this, to coin a phrase from Brian.
Well, I think there were stakes. I mean, they were they were just starting small, I guess. You know, I mean,
small budget.
New York, you know, was too big last time, so they starting small. I don't know why they did
Well,
that.
here's the thing, too.
I didn't mind it.
This is how they also probably filmed it without people knowing.
Yeah, maybe.
Good point.
Right.
But again,
I just kind of paralleled it with the fact that it's it's a new Ghostbusters. You know, it's a passing of the torch. We're a young group, so of course the young group is going to be. You know, you have no reason for the young group to be in New York. So I mean, the small town.
There's not kids in New York.
There's no kids in New York. I hear you. To me, it made it felt like there were no stakes. Like there was no one really in danger here whatsoever.
And I think the whole point of it was basically there's not. And sometimes I find that refreshing. Like, you know, not everything has to be the end of the world. You know, at the same time, it would make more sense if like there was other people running out of that Walmart with Paul Rudd. Or somebody had to duck when they were shooting the plasma blaster throughout the street. Yeah.
Or the police would have come to the house when they saw the giant clouds and lightning and all that stuff. They're like, no one there. So it goes into some tropes that nowadays, whenever you have even superhero movies or whatever, where they're like, we got to evacuate people from the city because the big bad guys are going to be there, and we're going to break some shit, and we don't want anybody to be hurt. So, you know, whether it's Batman v Superman or Avengers, you know what I mean? It's just sort of like, it's always very convenient that these big disaster movies, so to speak, like, oh, well, let's do it in a place where it's abandoned, so that way we don't have to show people actually in jeopardy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a small town. I mean, you're not going to have. I see what y'all are talking about, and I get it, but I mean, I was okay with it. I didn't mind the town being. I kind of liked it. It was different. It wasn't New York again. We've seen that in 3 other Ghostbusters movies. It was nice to change of pace. That it was something different, something smaller scale. You know, I liked all the kids.
I liked all the kids.
The characters. I thought they did a great job. I mean, Phoebe did a great job. She was perfect, I thought. I liked the podcast kid. I liked the lucky girl, and I liked I liked Finn. He just didn't really have
name of the whole cast.
I thought he was going to play a bigger role than he did.
Yeah, he really didn't have much of a role at all, did he?
He really didn't have much of a role or a personality, actually.
Well, I think the point of that was they were making it like a love letter to Egon, to Harold Ramis, right? And so they put her in, and she was the star of the movie, and she was doing a Harold Ramis impression the whole time. I think what you've got too is the archetypes, right? Podcast is obviously Ray, right? Ray stands. Finn Wolfhard, Trevor is. I think when we get a sequel from this, because we'll almost definitively get a sequel from this. He's your Venkman, but he can't. You know, is he going to choose scenery like Bill Murray would? Not in this movie. Not when Bill Murray's going to show up and it's all about Egon.
Well,
so
I think they didn't really know what to do with Finn, because I think you had Paul Rudd was more your Bill Murray type. He was more your jokester and funny guy and ladies' man type of guy, and Finn was just kind of there. It was
just there.
But we've seen him do that in other projects, right? So I assume that's where they're going with him.
I hope so.
What's funny is the girl that he was, pining over the whole movie, right? At the end, she's basically Winston.
Yeah. Right.
At the end of the movie, she throws on a proton pack and just jumps in the car with him, like with no other build up or why she would be doing any of it.
Right.
Yeah, she just tags along, so she's like their Winston. I think. We'll hold on to that because there's the where do we go next? So we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that.
So, oh, go ahead, Brad.
Oh no, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say I really enjoyed the movie. I keep hearing the mixed reviews that the tone is different from the original Ghostbusters, and and it's like, God, I don't know what these people expect anymore. I mean, when they did that 2016 Ghostbuster, which was a total disgrace and a farce,
an atrocity.
They tried to capture that old, the Ghostbusters, the comedy in it, and it just didn't work. I mean, so now he tried to do something different, tried to tie it in, and try to
no one's happy with anything. No one's happy with anything.
What this movie did, I mean, two films that remind me of course, it reminded me of The Force Awakens because they take, basically the same plot as the original and update it and, put the member berries and the feels for the past stuff, the nostalgic. But it also reminded me of Rocky IV and Creed II, where it took a kind of a goofy movie from the 80s where, Ghostbusters, come on. It was kind of goofy. And then they tried to, and so was Rocky IV. It was kind of the goofy of the bunch.
What?
And they tried to update it and make it serious, try to give it some cred. And this is what I think they tried to do with this. They tried to Rocky IV, Creed II it, where they tried to give it a little bit of seriousness and, more credit than all the jokey stuff.
Than just a comedy, yeah.
Yeah, see, I agree with that, but I also think it's part of why people are giving it mixed reviews. So,
I agree with you on that. Yeah, because I don't know, but again, I don't know what fucking people want. Do they just...
No, when I'm sitting at the impression I got was we got two movies. It's everything that happened up to them going and finding the well and Gozer coming out of the well, and then everything after. Like everything before, to your point, felt like they were making stuff serious and trying to take the premise and make it more serious, but more fleshed out, that sort of thing. And then suddenly a Ghostbusters movie started, an hour into this film, right? And so it's the tone shifted so hard. It was such a hard shift. It was like you were watching two different movies. And I get it. At some point we got to get on the track to show, we got to find a way to get back on in the world where Ray and Winston and Venkman showing up makes sense, right? Because we can't make the movie without them showing up. But it's like it just shifted so hard right there. It felt like two totally different movies.
I liked it though. I liked it. I liked it.
Let's talk.
I think the worst part of the movie, and
here we go.
We talked about it, was, and I was fine with it, but it was a little bit too much. Is when she calls Dan Aykroyd, Ray, and he just goes on this.
Let me tell you.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, it was all exposition.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he goes through a whole exposition spiel. He don't even know who he's talking to. She don't really tell him who she is until after he spills his guts. But he tells her everything.
He just wanted somebody to talk to.
He just tells her what happened to, to Egon and, where Peter's at now, where it happened to Winston and why they all. He goes through the whole detail. I mean, he talks for about 10 minutes. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
And then she finally goes, well, he was my grandfather. And then hangs up.
She says that right after he says, Egon can go to hell. It's like, whoa, you're talking to a kid here. Settle down, fella.
Well, no, you don't know who he's talking to. He's just talking to some random person that just called. I mean, it was just so weird. It was like, come on, they could have done that exposition somewhere else in the movie.
It feels like they could have, but yeah.
Well, yeah, it wasn't just. It was like he's dead. He died last week, and I'm his granddaughter. Like after he went on that tirade.
Right.
I mean, it should have been high. You know, I he was my grandfather. He died, and he could have.
That would explain why he opened up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was like no reason for him to open up to some caller on the phone. Well, let me tell you all my problems. You know, I mean, it was like, okay, that was a little bit too much. But other than that, everything else was, to me, the ending was perfect ending.
So let's talk toward the ending here. So we the little kids somehow or another know instinctively, all of them for the most part, instinctively know how to work the proton packs and the all the fancy.
You flip some switches and you push a button. I mean, come on, Brad.
Egon thankfully left Ecto-1 with a full tank of gas, and the remote control car had battery power to I mean, again,
suspension of disbelief.
Completely, yes, but I will say that we in the past have made fun of movies superhero movies. Where we're like, how did he know they were going to be there? It's like, well, I don't know. How did the Ghostbusters just know to show up there after one phone call? So, you know, we got to be fair to ourselves here, too, that there was a lot of stupidity in this movie.
Yeah, I guess because there were so many junked vehicles around it, the assumption is that he kept the car in working order or close to working order.
Can I throw in another theory, guys?
Oh, yes.
Brian should know this theory because he not the theory itself, but you know, Jason Reitman, is that his name, has gone on record to say that Ghostbusters 2 is also canon because there's been talk that they were going to do this like Halloween, that after the Halloween, the first movie is canon and everything else is not. So there was talk that Ghostbusters 2 wasn't going to be canon, and he's come out and said, nope, Ghostbusters 2 was canon for this movie, and, they will probably touch on Ghostbusters 2 stuff in the sequel. Well, Brian,
the biggest thing is...
You remember in Ghostbusters 2, they changed the car. It was the logo was changed, and the ghost was holding up a peace sign, which was for 2, and it had like the little... sign, the neon sign that was like
right.
Say call Ghostbusters, had their numbers like an advertising sign, and it was called Ecto 1A. So my theory is that there was 2 Ectos. They had 2, and Egon had that one stored after the first movie, and they had a second one in the second movie. There you go.
There was also a weird. Ray tells her that the old fire station has become a Starbucks.
Right.
But then at the very end, you see the fire station. It's still there.
It's still there. It's not a Starbucks.
Yeah, I didn't understand. Maybe that will be explained. They'll have to retcon it.
I doubt it.
Probably not. So anyway, let's go. So the kids, again, instinctively know how to work every piece of equipment and every car and all the gadgets and all that stuff. Suspension of disbelief, that's fine. And... and no one in the rest of the town gets hurt, and that's okay too. Suspension of disbelief. So they get to the final act, and they got Gozer and everybody on the run and all that kind of stuff, and all seems to be lost until the old Ghostbusters show up somehow or another. They know instinctively where to show up at, and are able to get there relatively quickly. I think, right?
Right. I mean, well. She called him I feel like it was a couple of days beforehand. She called him.
Yeah, I feel like it was too.
Okay.
But here's the thing. I mean, all
Winston
of these
has a private plane. Winston's rich now. So
that's true.
Has a private plane.
Well, think about this though. Like,
I cannot wait to
saw
break this out.
This plane or this car pull up, and 3 old men, somewhat infirm old men, get out and put 80-pound proton packs on. Like
there was a lot going on, Brian. Do you think they actually could? I mean, There's shit going on all over the place. How are they
Even Gozer didn't see it.
No one saw it.
Gozer didn't see it.
Gozer was fucking busy with fucking trying to kill everybody. I mean, come on, Gozer wasn't paying attention to that.
Another thing that, again, I can suspend my disbelief, but again,
you think someone nudged Gozer and said, "Hey, boss"?
Yeah, one of those dogs probably should have looked out, should have smelt them, right? Like when Phoebe was like, "Hey, Mom, throw the switch, now hit the box," and all that stuff. She could have like prepped her beforehand, because it was like, "Oh, this switch here." I mean, it's just the whole thing.
There's no time.
I'm just saying that the script and the directing left a lot to be desired.
When the shit's going down, are you going to explain how everything works?
They could have.
They could have say, "No, you're just going to say, fucking hit the button, goddamn."
Well, they could. They had the mom. They saved the mom beforehand and had her in the car and everything. They could have said, "Hey, here's the plan," but instead they just like, "Oh my gosh, we're going to make this up as we go along." Anyway.
That's all I ever do is make shit up as I go
along. That's the podcast. Absolutely. And then at the end, right again, the Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, show up, and all seems lost again because they cross the stream, and the Gozer or whoever takes it apart because they need a fourth stream, and who comes to save the day?
You're damn right.
The ghost of Harold Ramis. I kind of didn't like him showing up.
Oh, are you kidding me? How
I was okay.
Like that?
I was okay with him showing up. I was not okay, like 8 minutes later when he was still hanging around.
Hey, what are you guys gonna do? It's more my Ray Romano instead of Harold Ramis.
Okay, we've had enough Harold Ramis. Come on, man.
I guess I gotta go now.
Harold, you still here?
Give me a hug.
He hung out the whole time. And it was like, if he could make himself visible, why didn't he do it before then?
Right, because before then he was just twirling lamps around and shit like that. Right?
God, y'all are really, really
But I'm just saying that there could have... This is probably borrowing something from Brian and said there's a few tweaks the director could have, different choices that would have made this a much better movie.
What would you want him to do? It was a very touching ending.
It was.
All right, here's what I would have done.
It was really cool. Hold on. When they were all standing there in the line shooting, and all of a sudden he appears next to them, all four of them are shooting. That scene will never happen again because Harold Ramis is literally dead now. And
he was dead before that scene. It could happen again. You don't think by the time they make another Ghostbuster that Dan Aykroyd is going to be dead in real life?
Yeah, Peter Aykroyd did die. His brother
I know. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We should have given him a memorial.
I didn't know he had a brother.
We
There
didn't.
you go,
No
Peter.
one did.
That's
There you
all,
go, Peter.
So anyway, but I mean, it was a cool tribute. It was a. Cool
It was.
moment.
It was a cool tribute.
And to jump on Brian's, hatefulness. I like the scene where he stuck around too long and said goodbye to his daughter. It was nice. It was touching because she felt like he never, cared about her. So it was like
but there was something
closure.
bad about it. It felt like
It was. God, y'all feel like
Brian, how could you have made me like this movie better?
All right. So here's what I would have done. I still think
this is a new segment.
Here's the new segment. Here's what I would have done.
Here's what I would have done by Brian.
All right. So I think I like the idea of Harold showing up, right? I don't like seeing his face. I think that was a big thing for me. I would have rather seen like the innuendo that he was there than actually see him there.
Yeah.
And it brings me to that famous poem, about Jesus and the footprints in the sand.
Oh, yeah.
And when you only saw one set of footprints, it's because I was carrying you, right?
So he could have been guiding Phoebe's hand or whatever.
Or you could have still had, you could have panned out behind them. You see the fourth stream come in, and then you cut to a shot behind them, and you pan around from Ray to Venkman to Winston, and then you see like the silhouette of Egon, using the proton pack,
right?
But you don't see his face
right?
Because you didn't see his face in the beginning. Then you could even have done something at the end where over on the side, they see like his daughter and him like there's something going on over there, and you see a silhouette of him where they're making amends, and then he's gone. Yeah, but like there was no need for him to have like the goodbye with Phoebe and the goodbye with Trevor and then high fiving the one girl and and finger guns the podcast. I mean, it felt like it went on way too long.
I don't know what y'all talking about.
Podcast, my man.
Again, wouldn't in the scene where his daughter finds all the photographs of her graduation and all that, he was there. Yeah. He was there because he kept turning the lights, looking around or whatever type stuff, guiding her to that.
She already understood.
Yeah, wouldn't that have been a good place for him to appear as an apparition, to have that moment with his daughter, as opposed to
or not even have it like that? Let that be the moment.
Yeah. Oh no, that's what I'm saying. But I'm just saying, in this world where he can appear as a corporal being that that would have been the time he could have done that.
Why didn't he show up at the beginning? And then
he didn't scare anybody.
And he can lift things. He can move things. He should have wrote on the window or something. Yeah. Hey, this is a picture. No, he's such a trickster.
Listen,
look.
That was a beautiful moment.
I am so sorry. I was an asshole.
Here's the thing, though. It was a beautiful moment. It went on for like 10 minutes.
Well, what do you want him to do? Just fucking go?
Well, I guess he did.
Jeez.
Done. So
that was tribute.
It was nice, but it was a little. It was nice. I think a better story and better director could have made me like it better.
Oh, y'all are full of shit.
But you agree, Brad. You agree with my assessment. It went on way too long.
Yeah, I didn't like it at all.
Way too long. What?
It was sweet, but I didn't like it.
Why didn't you like it? What was there not to like about it?
We've just said for like the past 5 minutes.
But no, you really didn't. You just told me what you would do.
I don't like him showing up as a human being looking thing. Because
it's called fucking Ghostbusters.
I know, but all throughout the rest of the movie, previous to that, we knew that Egon was around as a ghost because he could move the lights around and he could do all that stuff. So I would have rather him, kind of like what Brian said. My thought was that Penelope or whatever, the little girl, would be kind of blasting all over the place and couldn't control it, and then all of a sudden we would, not a force ghost shows up, but somehow or another Egon's, hand calms her and aims the thing or whatever. And she gets control of it, and
you see the silhouette maybe, or an impression of him being there,
or a distortion, or something.
A distortion, but that's it.
Let me go on record to say this. All right.
All right.
If that would have happened, we would be sitting here, and y'all would be going, well, man, they cheaped out, man. They should have showed Egon.
I don't know.
No, I didn't want to see him, and I didn't expect to see him.
What do you mean?
I didn't expect to see him, and I didn't want to see him. And honestly,
it's not like he was like decomposing or anything.
No, but I'm just saying, like, it just that felt weird. It felt like a weird choice. And honestly, like the stuff that people didn't like about Star Wars, where they Grand Moff Tarkin and Princess Leia and all that crap. It's like they did it again. Like they could have, and again,
I thought it looked good.
It looked fine, but it was just unnecessary.
Because they did it, right? Because they did it, it kind of devalues the first half of the movie, right? Because it's like he can't be seen. This is more grounded. We're trying to make this universe a little more real, a little more believable that it could happen, unlike the 80s movies. And then they go boom, right back to the 80s movie, and they show him as the ghost. It's like
just uneven. I would have loved it if he would have pulled the librarian ghost on Venkman or something like that, and Venkman would be like, "Oh my God, buddy, good to see you again," and he does like, or so, like Beetlejuice him or something. That would have been kind of funny.
I wish Ray had given us this, told us what happened between him and the blowjob ghost. Where did that?
Yeah, she didn't appear.
That relationship deteriorate.
Yeah.
I thought this was a perfect movie. I thought this was fantastic.
Let me tell you, kid. I used to have this BJ ghost, and she dumped me in '92.
I don't want to take away that movie from you. I want you to hold on to this movie dearly.
I'm holding on to it because we would be sitting here bitching about how we didn't see his ghost if it was the way y'all say it. Y'all be going, oh, they should have showed his face. I don't know why they showed his face.
I don't know. Again, it's kind of a slippery slope, not to get too cinematic. I would wish Alex was here.
When I'm dead, you can fucking, reanimate me.
We can CGI you.
Yeah, I don't want to CGI you into the podcast. I don't want to see... If you want to lift up a Jawa figure or something, and I'd be like, oh my God, Ronnie's with me. But I don't want to see you.
Why?
I wish Alex was here because he would want to debate the philosophical, the existential crisis of... Okay, so now, again, we could have any actor dead that's going to appear in Ghostbusters now or whatever with CG, recreation and all that kind of stuff.
Not? I'd be okay.
I don't know. It's a debate for another podcast, maybe.
As long as the family likes it. I mean, Harold Ramis's family, he got permission from their family. They liked it. They thought it was a great fitting tribute to them.
Yeah.
All right, so let me just address something. When you're gone, PMR, I already have you captured. Right in WrestleMania WWE WrestleMania 2000, our creative character of PMR that looks just like him. When you pass, I'm going to make sure I play that game all day. Just reminisce.
Just reminisce. All right, so let's
get my ass beat on the. It won't be the same without me throwing the controller and pitching it.
Well, that's how
hit the reset button.
I'll keep playing the game until my controller shoots out of my hand.
Right,
and then
you'll know he's with me. He's with me. All right, so at the end, we get a couple of mid-credit scenes here. Post-credit scene. What was the first one? The first one was...
Peter?
Sigourney Weaver.
Oh, yeah, that was stupid.
So I guess that was the show that they're married or they're still together?
I guess so. That was kind of silly, but that was fine. It was good. Again, good to see Sigourney Weaver, I guess, and everything, but it's still...
I'd like to see those two kids stuck it out.
Yeah.
Well, any chance to let Bill Murray chew some scenery is fine with me.
Right.
So.
And then we find out the real meat of it. Winston is, Bruce Wayneing it up somewhere or another, and he's a billionaire now, and he's talking to Janine, I guess, and they're reminiscing about stuff.
No, I can see how you'd make that mistake, but do you know what he was actually doing?
What was he doing?
That was her job interview. He's hiring her to run the Ghostbusters or oversee the new Ghostbusters.
Interesting. I didn't know. I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't expressly say it, but that's my assumption is.
Well, if you guys remember back when they were doing this Ghostbusters 2016, and that's where they did it at the beginning of this film. They did it at the beginning of that 2016 film. It was called the Ghost Corps. That was their Marvel. That was their, what do you call that? Their universe.
Yep.
That was their multi-universe thing. So they were going to do the Ghost Corps. So I think, and Brian, I'm sure you're right, that they're doing that with this movie. They're going to build a franchise out of it with all these ghosts, and the Ghost Corps is going to be different, Ghostbusters all over the place.
Right. So, Ghostbuster International.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay. I think that's an interesting thought.
Well, I think what we're going to get next, because I guess that's where we're at this point, is what comes after this, right? So the Winston, my thought is he's hiring Janine to oversee the Ghostbusters or the Ghost Corps or whatever it's going to be. By the time the movie comes back, Finn, who's 15, will be 18, right? They can age him up. And Phoebe, they can age up if they need to, and bring them back if they want to as part of the Ghostbusters.
Right.
But then you've also got Oscar hanging around out there, baby Oscar from Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah. Bring him up.
So... you could do something like, the beginning minutes, Venkman dies, right?
Oh no!
And,
there we go.
And it brings everybody back together, and that's where Oscar comes in.
Do we get his figure, a Ghost Force figure?
No.
Harold Ramis with him.
There you go. But yeah, so they could, and essentially we see after the scene with Winston and Janine, you see a Ghostbusters vehicle. Well, first you see Winston opening up the firehouse and airing everything out and everything. And he takes the Ghostbusters vehicle with him at the end of the movie because it's all shot out. And so he says he's going to fix it. Ecto 1. And then you see like the Brooklyn Bridge, and Ecto 1's got the alarm going, and it's going down the bridge.
Playing Ray Parker Jr. as loud as it can.
Yeah, playing Ray Parker Jr. as loud as it can. So, I mean, obviously they're wanting this to kick off another, a full universe. And see, that's, again, part of my issue is you have that hard shift in the middle. I wasn't a huge fan of the Egon stuff at the end. It went on way too long, and I think there was a better way to do it. And then they're also trying to set up a new universe. So I think that's part of what, because it wasn't just Ghostbusters 3, it wasn't just, hey, we just want to make the best movie we can. They're trying to do fan service and build a universe and, honor Harold Ramis. I think it got a little watered down because of that.
Yeah.
So,
but again, I'm all for it, Podman Ron. Don't get me wrong; I'm criticizing it.
I am too.
But I think we could get a couple of good movies out of it. But I'm not sure if a full-fledged franchise. I don't know how much you could go on with it, but.
And I honestly believe somewhere or another they're going to validate that turn of a movie in 2016.
They should. They should go ahead and say, yeah, that was another thing that Winston had already set up in Chicago or wherever it took place.
It took place. It was totally a reboot. There's no way.
I know, but they should. They should retcon it in.
It would have to be a different universe.
It's so weird. And we talked about this at the time. We talked about this movie in an episode. What the hell is that?
I just go with it. Podman Ron shaving.
He's drying his hair.
Excuse me.
There's that movie.
That is a noisy fleshlight. That fleshlight is noisy.
It's gas powered.
Okay.
Paul, was it
that whole ghost blowjob thing really got to Podman Ron?
It did. It got him going.
I wonder how that would feel.
I wonder. Paul Feige is a fine director. He's directed some really funny movies, right? Yeah. And the whole cast, everybody in the cast was great.
Yeah,
but that movie was god awful.
It was terrible.
And there's even stuff in the film where it's like clearly there was either some sort of infighting between him and the studio. There was something, because you can even see where there's cuts to the movie that they don't reference, right? The whole thing with the dance number with Chris Hemsworth in front of the hotel or whatever it is. Like they reference it, and you can see where, the dance number should have gone in here, and it's not.
No, it should never have been in.
No, but like the way it was in the script there. But it's like, so it cuts in the middle, and it just makes this weird sort of sequence in all of it. Yeah, I can't understand how that movie, there's got to be a story to that. At one point, we'll get a story of, what the hell went wrong with Ghostbusters 2016.
What I really hate about all that in 2016 is they tried to blame it on, it's male chauvinism.
Right.
Because they had an all-female cast. And I'm like, no, it's just because it was just bad. I mean, it was... You had a great cast. You had a fantastic cast. You had a great director. He's a comedy director, but
And now years later, you have a Ghostbuster with a little girl, a 12-year-old girl or whatever she is in real life, that blew all of them out of the water. Right? So it's like, everybody loves Phoebe. All right, so let's.
Can I make one point about what Ron just said? P. Marshall said.
Yes.
So they said it was all just male chauvinists couldn't get behind a female cast. The movie sucked. Like I was ready for the movie. I was happy with all the casting. I like all those actresses.
Yeah,
like
same here.
I was on board, and the movie sucked. Right. Yeah. But and this I almost brought it up in the news, but it's kind of topical now. Did you guys see the comments from Ridley Scott today?
No.
About the failure of the last duel, the movie that he produced or that he directed and put out like 3 weeks ago, but it completely bombed at the box office. Completely bombed.
Last Duel? I've never even heard of it.
it earned just $27 million on a $100 million budget. It's a period piece set in England about a character who was Jodie Comer, who is British, who was raped and testified that she was raped, and if she couldn't prove it, she was going to be burned alive for false accusation. So her supporting cast in this film is Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, and Adam Driver. So it's like, wow. Oh yeah, go watch the trailers. But why would you make a period piece set in Britain in like the medieval times and cast Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, and Adam Driver, three American actors, right, when you've got plenty of British actors that could do these roles. So, but what he said today was the reason why the film failed was because of millennial audiences.
That's probably true.
Like they just couldn't understand it. They're let's see.
I can tell you why it failed, because no one wants to see that shit. I mean, come on. You can watch something like that on fucking Lifetime. You don't need to.
Oh, speaking of
which, I
watched Promising Young Woman recently. That was good.
He said, I think what it boils down to, this is Ridley Scott, Sir Ridley Scott. I think what it boils down to is what we've got today are audiences who were brought up on these fucking cell phones.
Yeah.
The millennials do not ever want to be taught anything unless you're told it on a cell phone. So it's not that he made a bad movie, it's cell phones and millennials.
Yeah, and superhero movies probably.
And superhero movies.
Here's the thing. This is not 1995 where you only have a few choices. You've got all kinds of streaming services. You've got all kinds of fucking channels now. You've probably even got a channel that has a historical channel with movies for historical references. I mean, no one's going to go see that as a mainstream movie. It just does not appeal to everybody. I mean, know your audience. Know what people are going to go see. That's the kind of movie you'll just watch on TV if you want to see something like that. That's not like you want to go to a movie to see that. I mean,
it's not a feel-good movie.
No, nobody wants to go see it. I mean, nobody wants to see that on a big screen. You watch that on TV or a streaming service. I mean,
can I get back to Ghostbusters Afterlife?
Yeah, sorry.
All right, so that was a hell of a sidetrack we went down. That Podman Run. What do you give this movie?
You know what, Brian? I give this a 6 out of 5.
Wow, that is incredible. Unheard of.
I knew this was coming.
Higher than Shang-Chi, Brian.
Higher than Shang-Chi. I knew this was coming. I was prepped for this a day or two ago. And I want to review the rating system again.
One more time.
To understand how we got to 6. So a 1, what is a 1, PMR?
A 1 is I tell you not to watch it. I say don't go, stay away from it. Why?
Stay away from it. Okay.
All right.
What is a 2?
A 2 is I'll tell you I'll never watch it. I wish I would have never seen it. I would recommend you not to see it.
Okay.
If you want to go see it, go see it.
So 1, you'll wrestle the keys out of my hand.
Yes.
2, you're not going to fight me, but you strongly recommend I don't go see it.
Right.
All right. What's a 3?
3 is I've watched it. I will never watch it again, but I'll tell you to go watch it.
Okay.
All right. A 4.
A 4? A 4 is I'll probably watch it one more time.
All right.
And a 5 is I'll watch it multiple times.
No, and a 6.
And
now,
a 6.
6 is I love it so much.
I bring out the flashlight.
I'll bring out the flashlight. No, I will actually go back to see it at the movie theater.
Okay, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
All right.
I thought it was
it's a perfectly reasonable rating.
That makes a lot of sense. 6 out of 5.
That's 6 out of 5.
Thank you.
The rules mean nothing.
The rules make absolute sense, Brian. What do you give this movie? Given what we just went over, Brian, what do you give this movie?
I give it a 4 out of 5.
I guess that's all I can hope for.
Well, my 4, look, I reserve a 5.
4 used to be pretty good.
4 used to be pretty good.
How can you not say this movie is not at least a 5?
At least a 5, because 5 is the maximum. That's how I can say it. But
at least a 5
flies in the logic
I love
of this
that
rating system.
I love that. It has to be at least a 5.
At least a 5.
It used to be the most it could be.
7 out of 5.
Used to be most you could be was 5. Now it's at least a 5. I give it a 3.
I don't know how the hell you can give this movie a 3.
I mean, I'll give it a solid 3, if that makes you feel any better.
Oh, man, you heartless bastards, man. I swear to God.
I enjoyed the movie, but I have no intention of seeing it again.
He made you guys a perfect movie, a perfect follow-up to Ghostbusters.
It was so uneven, though.
Yeah, it wasn't a perfect
The writing
movie.
and directing. Other than the writing and directing, again, I liked all of the kids. A little let down by Paul Rudd. Didn't think much of the mom. And I kind of didn't really like the goofiness of the Ghostbusters appearing at the end.
What do you mean the goofiness? That was the Jesus Christ. What would you put at the end? Them just winning and...
No, I'm okay with it. Here's the thing. I'm okay with them showing up, right? I'm okay with them showing up. I think it's weird how they got there.
What do you mean it's weird?
And then they just crack jokes. Like there's no joke cracking throughout the entire movie.
Now you're saying they're cracking jokes and you don't wish they would crack jokes?
Well, no, I'm just saying that exemplifies the unevenness of the writing of the movie. Because they come in and now all of a sudden it's like, hey, remember me, baby? We had a hot date. And that was the old Ghostbuster vibe, which is absolutely fine, but it was
that's
absent.
Not the first half of the movie.
It was absent the rest of the movie.
Because they weren't in the first half.
But you could have still had the tone. The tone. That's what would have made it a 4 for me.
Yeah, see, what you said, right, where they tried to make it like Creed, I'm on board for all that. I'm on board for that, where they try to make it a little more realistic, a little more believable.
What if they would have brought in the robot at the end of Creed to give Creed a drink? Here's your Bud Light, Creed, too.
Yeah.
You'd be like, well, that's fucking weird. Why'd they bring the robot?
Holly willed me to you, Creed.
Happy birthday, Creed, to you. Yeah.
It felt like two different movies. It felt like, hang on. It felt like we got a 90 or a 2021 reboot, retelling, everything you said about Creed. And then they just went ahead in the last 30 minutes and said, no, this is Ghostbusters 3. And because
the original Ghostbusters came back,
which is fine, yes, but the tone was different. I mean, completely shifted the tone.
Right, you can bring them back and still maintain the tone you established in the first half of the first 3 quarters of the movie, but they didn't. It's like it made this weird shift, which to the detriment of the movie. So
that's where I go with 3. A 3, a 4, and a 7 or 6.
So here, let me put an example. Brian, that you may understand.
Yeah, Brian.
Okay? That I may understand,
yeah.
You moron.
You fucking simple-minded amoeba.
You simpleton.
There's Brad, and Chris, and Tim are all sitting together at a table.
Are we dead or alive?
They're eating dinner at a table, all right?
Yeah,
and they're just talking, okay? They're just talking.
Correct.
Is it manwich?
It's manwiches, and you're going to come. And they're sitting around just talking. And the vibe is just because it's Tim, Chris, and Brad.
Right.
And the vibe is just that. And then all of a sudden, here you walk in all jokey.
Guns a-blazing, yeah.
Guns a-blazing, all joke, like Bill Murray. The tone's going to shift because that's your personality. You've added your personality to these guys. So you're going to... So that's going to be different.
I mean, that I would say that's true.
So that's what happened. You can't just... You had to add these guys at the end. They're going to be jokey because that's their personality. If they weren't jokey, then everybody's going to be like, well, they didn't even act like the Ghostbusters. They act like a bunch of old men.
Yeah, no, see, I haven't had a problem with them being jokey. Like that wasn't my issue.
I thought that was the issue.
No, my issue is
unevenness.
The unevenness in the tone of the movie.
Because they're jokey.
No. It's not that they were joking. It's that the movie feels like an entirely different movie when not when they show up. It feels like an entirely different movie when they find the pit and Gozer shows up. Once Gozer shows up, it feels like an entirely different film than the first hour and 10 minutes or whatever it was. The first two acts and the third act feel completely different and completely uneven. And I know why, because they had to get it back on track for the nostalgia act, right? And to get the rematch between the original Ghostbusters and Gozer, right? I understand why they did it. My point is, there's a way they could have sanded down that harsh that speed bump between Act 2 and Act 3 and made it an easier transition, while still honoring the characters.
Right, either director or writing, something needed to be tweaked.
Right, and I think at that point when they did, and they were already 3/4 of the way down this path. This is what the fleshlight sees.
POV, you're a fleshlight. For those of you who are not on camera, Podman Ron just switched his camera on, and we're looking at POV, you're a fleshlight, staring at his face.
He's menacingly hovering over us.
It is not good. All right.
Yeah, no,
I'm just saying that
What are you saying?
the ghost of Roger Ebert would have agreed with me.
He probably would. He probably would.
This was a nostalgic thing.
All right. Well, this was a fantastic
and I think the nostalgia is what got me from a 3 to a 4. So
okay. Look at that. You could almost.
But you still feel like Harold Ramis just stuck around way too long. Get out of here, Harold Ramis. You're dead.
Well, the thing is, they kept cutting back to him. Well, I want to go back and watch it and see how many cuts there are, because there's the whole thing with the proton pack and the blaster. What are they called? I'm drawing a blank on the
energy stream thingies.
Yeah, the proton blaster, whatever. Yeah. So there's that, and then it cuts away, and then you see Trevor digging his girlfriend out of the gatekeeper or whatever, right?
Right.
And then you see Paul Rudd's character, breaking out, coming back out, like, what happened? And he's all disheveled. And then it comes back to Harold, and I'm like, shit, Harold's still there. And
then everybody's kind of parting ways, and he's just standing there in the middle of the field, like, all right then.
Then it cuts to their mom checking on him. Are you kids okay? Are you kids
right,
okay?
He's still there.
Oh my God, you scared me. And then it cuts back to Harold. I'm like, Harold's still fucking there. And he kept cutting back to all these other things, and Harold's just lurking around.
Then he just turns into a star and leaves, I guess. I don't know. I don't remember.
It was just weird. It was don't you have somewhere to be?
Aren't you supposed to go to heaven now, Harold?
Well, he was kind of getting closure, but I guess he was probably like, "Hey, bitch, I'm trying to hold on here."
Yeah. Now you know why I abandoned my family.
To the point, I wanted at the end when it was Janine talking to Winston. At the end of that scene, pan around, and Harold's still there. Turn at the end of that scene, he doesn't know when to leave now.
I've got that coin.
To leave.
I've got the coin, Janine.
He keeps getting pulled back into conversations. He can't exit. At the end of the credits, hang on. At the end of the credits, after sitting through 10 minutes of credits, and then a 5-minute scene of Winston and Janine, if it just panned around and Harold Ramis's ghost was still there, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 5.
That would have been great.
And then Winston would have said, I don't know, I just can't seem to get rid of it.
Well, that would have been great, if Winston would be like, I made all this money, but in my heart, I'm still a Ghostbuster. And then he looks over at Harold Ramis, and Harold Ramis is nodding his head.
He's like, I don't
and then
at
the end of the movie, it has Harold Ramis come in with a towel wrapped around his head, and he's like, "Go home! What are you still doing here?" All right, let's wrap this up. We've talked about this this was a solid review for a movie. I don't even know where else to take
I
it.
don't know what the hell's wrong with y'all. I swear to God.
Yeah, we're picky. We're very picky.
No. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that movie was an awesome movie. Best movie I've seen this year. Best movie. What was this that was the best movie y'all saw this year?
Dune.
Brian?
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
Fucking wasn't Black Widow. Sure in the fuck
Dune.
Eternals. Yeah. Dune was okay, but it was not this.
No, it wasn't this.
No, it wasn't. All right. Anything? Do we want to talk about Podman Ron? You'd mentioned Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Appointment.
Yeah. Okay.
What is the
Here we
season?
go.
It's like Curb came back. It's season 11, I believe.
I think 11. Yeah.
Been on for like 20 years. And we've said this before. With Cheryl not leaving. I mean, he divorced Cheryl. What about?
Couple of
5 seasons ago.
Well, it's been about 10 years. And it's just lost a lot.
Yeah, it has.
It's just like a caricature of himself, the episodes seem all the same, and just
well, it just kind of it goes from scene to scene with everybody mad at Larry David and him yelling back. At the end of each scene, he's yelling like, "What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do?" Or, "Oh yeah, you do that," or whatever. And it's kind of it kind of blends all together. You're like, I watch it, but I don't enjoy it. It's kind of like
I have a theory.
I
have a theory.
Oh,
and I think if you watch these episodes with this theory in the back of your head, you might enjoy them more.
Brian's always got a theory.
I've got a feeling Larry David is minding his own business, sitting at home, and then suddenly a check from HBO comes for an ungodly amount of money.
I'm sure, yeah.
And he's like, do I deposit this check or send it back?
Yeah. He could save the planet, right?
He deposits the check and then realizes he's just committed to making another season. And so he just pulls whatever he can think of out of his ass at the last minute. Like, there's no preparation. They're like, okay, the cameras are going to be there Thursday.
Right.
You've already cashed the check. We're shooting something.
Yeah.
It's just those first few seasons. I mean, all of them with Cheryl. I mean, they were funny. I mean, you needed her as the straight person to work off of.
Well,
and now he doesn't have a straight person.
All he's got is Leon.
He's got Leon. He just walks around and like Brad says, just screams at people and they get mad at him, and that's pretty much the show now.
And scene.
And scene. And then back in the old days, though, at least you'd always kind of like, oh God, is he gonna say something? You were like, oh God, this is gonna be bad. He's gonna say something. Now it's just like you kind of know who he is, and it's like, oh God, this is stupid. And I don't know, it's just not fun like it used to be. It's not a good show.
I feel like when we've said this before, the Seinfeld season was probably where they should have stopped.
Yeah.
Although, what was that, season 7, I think? Season 8, where he was in New York, right, and doing the producers, was still really strong because you had a lot of Funkhauser and Mel Brooks in it, right? And so I think they should have bowed out at 7. They had a good idea for 8, and I'm glad they made 8. But since 8, there's been nothing.
Yeah.
Right? And honestly, 8 is nowhere near as good as the Seinfeld reunion season. It was better, but definitely better than what we've got now. But now it's like they don't even have a good idea. Like the Spite Store. Yeah. What was that? This season is all about that the girl at the Mexican restaurant.
Right. That was bad. They finally got rid of that.
So
sad. And I think that after the Seinfeld, they should have got him back together with Cheryl, and then we would have had them back together and her being the straight person again. But
yeah, he needs a straight person because he doesn't have one. And that was always the problem with The Office in the later years, is everybody wanted to be wacky, and so you didn't have the straight person. So yeah, because Jeff's weird, Susie's weird. They're all guffawing for the laughs. Nobody's there to point out how ridiculous the way they're acting is.
Right.
Without Cheryl. So.
No.
she's been on it lately. She's been kind of falling into that same like wackiness too. So it's like, okay, everybody needs to.
Everybody just needs to end.
Get back to,
Stop.
yeah.
Stop
This show, it does really need to end. I mean, Always Sunny is always good.
Well, I thought he was talking about the podcast for a second.
Yeah, this show should end.
It got real meta there for a second.
Am I doing?
Stop being funny years ago. It really should end.
Yeah,
and I should. Am I doing the Harold Ramis and just should hurry up and go?
Just hovering around, looking down on us.
I don't know. Come on.
All right, so we've got Hawkeye coming up. We've got
Yep.
Always Sunny coming up. I mean, what else do we have here? A lot of good stuff. And Matrix before the end of the year.
Spider-Man
before the end of the year.
You got House of Gucci, which I've heard is a train wreck.
All right, House of Gucci.
I'll see that.
The King's Man. Anybody interested in seeing the King's Man? Or is it the King's Men? Whatever.
But honestly, that last movie was so bad that I don't know. It turned me off of that whole.
What about, we mentioned it earlier in the podcast, what about Rocky versus Drago? Who's interested in seeing that?
I purchased it. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, look at that. So would that make it a 5? You purchased
I
the
don't know.
movie?
I purchased it without seeing it.
I thought 5 was I'll buy it and watch it. Oh my God, this is so confusing.
I like the Rocky movies enough and to see what Stallone's got in store for Rocky 4.
Wow. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
So,
Fair enough. So maybe you can watch that and give us a review of that. Anything else coming up, Podman Ron, that you're interested in as we quickly wrap up the year?
No, I think that's
Wheel of Time started.
Yeah, that looks horribly boring to me, Brian. But you're all in for it, right? Or at least the books you are.
Jacob is.
Okay.
I read the first book. He's read like the first 7 books.
Okay. So that may be the target audience there, huh?
I don't think it is. I don't think it's the target audience.
Okay.
So, I don't think they were shooting for 17-year-old boys when they wrote this. But who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, we have no interest in our house.
Yeah, we've got the Lord of the Rings shows coming out. One of these two is not going to make it.
No.
I got a feeling it may be Wheel of Time.
Yeah, Wheel of Time's it's time's up on the Wheel
When
of
is
Time.
the Lord of the Rings shows coming out? They've been talking about those for several years now.
It's sometime next year. And then we got the new Game of the Thrones show as well.
Game of the Thrones.
You
sound like an old lady now. Have you watched the Game of the Thrones?
Have you? So,
all right, so a lot of stuff.
Star Wars stuff too. Mandalorian,
Book of Boba, yeah.
Book of Boba, or whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah.
I disbelieve.
Yeah, all kinds of good stuff for the end of the year.
all sorts of stuff.
All right. Okay, something to keep the podcast going, Brian. Got to have something to keep the podcast
coming in December, and actually, it's coming January 1st.
What is?
Season 4.
Wait, what was that? You cut out there, PMR.
4.
4.
Oh, Fantastic Four is coming out January 1st. You heard it from PMR.
It's Cobra Kai season 4. That's what he's saying.
Oh, okay. All right.
Or trying to say.
Okay. Well, he was so excited we couldn't hear him. All right. Well, hey, we got a lot of reasons to keep the podcast going. I hope Alex comes back soon before the end of the year. And, we'll just keep it going. But until next time.
Save it for the podcast.